Welcome to Bilingual Book Buddies. Bilingual Book Buddies is a podcast and webcast dedicated to promoting bilingual books for children and sharing insights from authors, illustrators, editors, agents, and anyone involved in bringing these stories to life. I'm Claudia Sloan, and I'm one of 3 co-hosts of Bilingual Book Buddies. I'm an artist who also writes and illustrates children's books. I focus on themes of wellness, Latinx culture, my life adventures, modern fairy tales, STEAM, and sports, among others. My newest bilingual picture book is titled We Are the Valley, Somos el Valle, and it's a sports picture book and also a dream come true for me because it was a collaboration with my favorite NBA and WNBA professional basketball teams, the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury. And now join me in welcoming my co-hosts, Alicia Salazar and Silvia Lopez.
Hello, I'm Silvia Lopez. I am a Cuban-American writer living in Miami. I was a school librarian for many years before turning my lifelong love of reading into writing for children. I have about 20 books published, mostly bilingual or dual language. These include picture books, nonfiction, folktale retellings, easy readers, and biographies. 4 more of my books are due to come out in 2026 and 2027.
Hi, I'm Alicia Salazar, children's book author and former teacher. I've written bilingual and English language books for young readers, including the Camilla the Star series, Trolls, Loch Ness Monster, and my recently published picture book, Cascarones and Easter Surprise. I'm passionate about stories that celebrate culture, spark imagination, and encourage kids to express themselves, especially in more than one language. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our guest. Jolene Gutiérrez grew up on a farm in northeastern Colorado, surrounded by animals, plants, and history. She is an award-winning neurodivergent teacher-librarian who has been working with neurodivergent learners since 1995. She's a wife, a mama to 2 young adults, 3 dogs, 2 cats, and an ever-rotating variety of other rescue animals. Her books include Bionic Beasts, Saving Animal Lives with Artificial Flippers, Legs, and Beaks, The Ofrenda We Built, co-authored with her daughter Cheyenne, Mamiachi and Me, My Mommy's Mariachi Band, co-authored with her son Dakota, the upcoming Unbreakable, a Japanese tonai, and Too Much, An Overwhelming Day, which has been printed in 9 countries in 8 languages. Find her online at www.jolenegutierrez.com or on Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, or Threads at Writer Jolene on Instagram or Threads.
Welcome, Jolene. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction and for welcoming me today.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you
And
for
Alicia
being
has the first question for
You
today.
have the first question. Okay, let's start by getting to know you. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your background, where you grew up, what you do now, and what inspires your work as an author and librarian?
Absolutely. So, your introduction of me included some of this, but I was born in northeastern Colorado and grew up there and grew up on a farm and out kind of in the middle of nowhere. I didn't have neighbors nearby. I had my little sister and our animals and books. And so books have always been a huge part of my life. And my mom volunteered at our school library and took me to our public library frequently. So I was always surrounded by books. And pretty early on, I remember playing librarian with my sister. I would check books out to her and things like that. I knew the power of books. I knew how important they were. For me, they exposed me to other stories and lives that I had not lived or experienced. And that was so powerful. And so I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And in my work now at the school where I work at, Denver Academy, this is my 30th year. We have, as you mentioned, neurodivergent learners, and I see the power of unlocking books, finding a just right book, a series they're interested in, something that clicks for my readers and how that has changed their lives. And I know without a doubt that books also save lives. So I see that power every day. And I also see some of the gaps as when I became a parent and as a librarian, there are certain books that just weren't there that I was looking for. And so that was kind of what fueled me to become an author as well, to try to fill some of those holes if it was appropriate for me to write those stories.
What a wonderful background from the world of books. Your family clearly plays a special role in your creative work. What was it like co-authoring books with your children, and how did those collaborations come about? And by the way, I have to say that I did see a webinar a while back, well, when you were talking about this lovely book, and I think one of your, I think it was your daughter that was in the call from all the way from like Asia, somewhere in Asia. I thought that was just
Yeah.
really, really cool. But anyways, it's just I admire that you were able to work together with your children on some of these books. So tell us about that.
Thank you. Yeah, it has been so special and it makes me emotional thinking what a gift and how blessed I am to have been able to collaborate with them in that way. So in 2019, on November 1st, 2019, my dad passed away suddenly.
Oh,
And that
sorry.
was during Dia de Muertos. And our ofrenda had always been important to us, but it became even more so at that point. And then COVID happened. And so my daughter was home from college taking classes. I was teaching from home. My husband was working from home. Our son was taking high school classes from home. So we were all here in the same house. And as it came time for Dia de Muertos, for the 1 year anniversary of my dad's death, we were working together and creating our ofrenda. And it really, to me, I was reminded of, I mean, you're building the layers and you're adding different things. And my daughter was always very involved in our ofrenda. She is really artistic. And so she would make the papel picado and she would paint alebrijes and things like that. And so I thought about the layers and the building, and I thought about the nursery rhyme, The House That Jack Built, and thought, wow, I wonder if we could write something about the ofrenda that we built. And so we had the time and we were here together. And so we just started writing. And she even made like a little video as we wrote. And it was mostly trying to create something beautiful and give ourselves something to do to take our minds off of what was going on in the world, really is what, and we had no idea it was going to be illustrated. And I see Sylvia showing some of the interiors of Gabby Zapata's beautiful artwork because, yeah, Gabby's art is such a gift. But
It's
we were
gorgeous.
fortunate, and yeah, we were fortunate to have that book go under contract. And yeah, Feather Flores read it. She was from Chronicle and purchased it, and we were so lucky. And then still, while we were all at home, my husband had watched an NPR interview with Flor de Toloache, an all-female mariachi group, and he was talking to me about it. And he said something about an all-female mariachi group, and I misheard him and thought he said an all-female mamiachi group. And I said, did you just call them mamiachis? And and I was just like, I don't know if I should be offended or if I should laugh or why did he call them that? And he's like, I did not say that. So my brain misheard him, but then it kind of stuck in my brain because I thought mamiachi though, that's a really cool word. And so both my son and daughter are very musical, but my son has experimented in so many different genres. So he's played violin and he's done choir and musical theater, and their high school had a mariachi group that he was intending to join his senior year that didn't happen because of COVID. And so I thought, well, maybe Cheyenne and I have written the Ofrenda book together. Maybe Dakota would want to write this story with me. So I said, here's this idea of an all-female mariachi group, and I don't really have anything other than that. It's just the Mamiachi title. Would you want to work on that? And we did, and it was so beautiful. So the Ofrenda That We Built has this cumulative structure of the house that Jack built. So we had this predetermined structure, but it has so much rhythm and rhyme, and Cheyenne's musical ear was able to really support me with that, because writing in rhyme is a challenge for me. And Mamiachi is a very different story, and it has this beautiful lyrical, I mean, it just feels like the emotion and heart of mariachi, like it has the rhythm, but it doesn't have a rhyming structure. And it was such a gift to be able to work with each child to create something that was uniquely ours. And it's I mean, these are the kinds of books that I looked for when they were little, that those books were there, but not to the extent they are now. So it's such a gift to have these books in the world for young readers, and maybe eventually for my own grandkids, fingers crossed.
Well, you're in the right place. That is our mission. So
Sure is.
I
It sure
love
is.
Mhm.
All right, and I have the pleasure of the next question. Even though you mentioned that you're not fully fluent in Spanish, your family's journey with language is deeply woven into your story. How has your relationship with bilingualism evolved over time? And you just mentioned it when the children were little, how you were looking for those books.
Yeah.
And how does that influence the stories that you write now?
I love that question. I have loved the Spanish language since I was in kindergarten, and my kindergarten teacher taught us to count to 10. But I loved the beauty and the flow of the language. And in high school, we had a Spanish teacher. I took my only year of high school Spanish because she then went to another job and they didn't rehire any foreign language teacher. But I fell even deeper in love with Spanish then. And I took some Spanish classes in college, and now I'm like trying to practice more and become even more fluent, but I am not fully fluent. So it is something that I am practicing, and it's a goal for me. When I was pregnant with Cheyenne, I knew I wanted to try to raise her bilingually. And for my husband, who was born in Mexico and was the oldest in his family and had to navigate learning English on his own in a small rural school, that was a painful experience for him. And he worked really hard to learn English. And I think when we were raising the kids, I think he maybe didn't see what a gift raising kids bilingually could be. I think he had the pain associated with how hard it was for him and what an outsider he felt like as he was trying to learn English. So I had asked him, please, will you speak Spanish? I'll speak English, and we will all learn and grow together. And it just wasn't something, it was too hard for him. He said, you guys don't understand me. And so I did the next best thing. I checked out all of the Spanish books I could find at the library and read to them. And that way I practiced my accent and learning words myself. I immersed them with music and videos. And, I thought at least if they're hearing these sounds, it will be in their brains. And Cheyenne, when she went to college, decided, I think it was also a painful thing for her not having a second language. So there was pain from both sides for each of them. And she decided, I want to give myself this gift of bilingualism. So she double majored in art and then in Spanish, and she went and lived in Mexico for a little while. So she is fully fluent in Spanish, and it makes me emotional because I'm so proud of her for giving herself that gift. And she taught at an international school in Hong Kong, and then she was doing graphic design at another international school in China. So she did join me from somewhere in Asia. I can't remember which school she was at for one of the book launches, which was such a special thing too.
That was a very special even to watch, by the way, as an spectator, to see the two of you completely, far away physically, but it's still so together. And you could tell that you had a beautiful relationship and obviously working relationship too. By the way, I like the names of your kids.
Thank you.
Do you have any more with names like that? No, that's
The
it.
only two kids and,
Okay.
and a book with each of them. Like what a blessing.
What a gift. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, as a teacher, librarian, and a parent, what changes have you seen in the availability and quality of bilingual and culturally representative children's books over the past 2 decades?
Oh, so much growth, and so much joy. Usually back then there was one bookstore where I could find bilingual books, and I would have to go in person, and they had curated a beautiful collection. And then also I think I found a few on my college campus in their library, but it was harder, obviously, to find books, and oftentimes they were smaller presses, so they didn't have the publicity that so many of the books do now. Um, Now there are so many other stories, so many joyful stories. I was so excited about your Cascarones story because I love Cascarones, Alicia, and yeah,
Oh,
all of the just the different celebrations from different cultures and different places, and then language woven within. Ofrenda is not available yet. Fingers crossed that it will be at some point, but not available in Spanish yet. But we have Spanish words dropped in, and I love that as well. So just the variety of ways the stories are told and the variety of cultures and celebrations that are shown, and then the variety of places we can find them now because they are much more widely available, and there are awards for these books, and like they're known by all, not just a smaller community.
I celebrate that change with you. I mean, not too long ago, they were just so difficult to find, even at the libraries.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see the growth, and especially see it even going to smaller towns as well, and smaller libraries. Over the summer, I got to visit a few, and it was, I mean, it's not a huge collection, but hey, there were some bilingual books in there, and some, in English and in Spanish. But anyways, I do have the next question. So let's talk about that. You've written across genres from nonfiction to heartfelt family stories. What inspires the stories you choose to tell? And how do you approach writing for young readers with both authenticity and empathy?
Mm. That's a beautiful question. So I mentioned as a teacher librarian some of the gaps that I have seen over the years. And oftentimes when I am preparing the lessons that I prepare for my students, the school that I teach at is an independent school. We have primarily white, primarily privileged students there, but they have struggled in school and they have this capacity for compassion. So I use my platform as a teacher librarian to choose lessons that will help them grow as humans and grow in compassion and experience things that they maybe haven't experienced in their life. So helping them understand the bigger world outside of their doors. And so that is really important to me as a teacher. And then as an author, when I find topics that I think, there should be stories about this. Why aren't there stories about this? My students would connect with this. My children need these stories, those kind of things. That lights a fire in me. And then because you all know, as authors, you really have to have a passion for the story because it's going to take a lot of work to write it and it may not get published. You really have to be behind this story. So that's really what it takes for me to find a topic. And then there are questions I have to ask myself because I may not be the right person to write that story. Or maybe I need to work with a co-author, which I do a lot of because I find stories that I'm like, this should be told, this needs to be told. And I love collaborating with my teachers at work. I love all kinds of collaboration. So co-writing is just another way to do that and for us to inspire each other and make something bigger and more beautiful. And yeah, I think it's Bionic Beasts is one that's one of my nonfiction stories that really goes back to my time growing up on a farm where animals weren't helped. If an animal was injured, my dad would quote unquote put it down, or have a vet come. And that was really hard for me. And that's kind of one of the earlier books that I wrote because I wanted to show the world there are other ways to help. There are other ways to, create change. And I think that kind of wanting to teach compassion and wanting to teach readers to look at things from different angles has driven me always as a writer.
That's a wonderful, wonderful answer.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all the insights.
Thank you.
And I have the next question, and it's about representation. And I think you addressed it a little bit with describing the students that you work with.
Okay.
Why is it important that for children to see both themselves and others in the books that they read? And how do you approach that as a librarian and as an author?
And you're right, I did talk a little bit about this, but I also, I want to talk about it from the other angle. I talked about it in showing my primarily white, primarily privileged students other lived experiences so they understand that their view of the world is not the only view. But I also think for other readers, if they do not see themselves in books, if they do not see themselves represented in a variety of places in the world, they start to think, sorry, I'm going to cry, that their stories don't matter. And that is never okay. I think we need all kinds of stories represented, all kinds of stories told and shown so that people can see themselves in books and know that I'm not the only one going through this experience. I look at these other people with families like mine or celebrations like mine, both in joyful and in hard ways. People need to see their experiences mirrored. Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop and her mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors, that guides me as a teacher and an author always. So I just think it's so important. And the times that I have been able to visit smaller schools, I mean, obviously I'm in Denver, a metro area, and we do have more diversity in many of our schools. But when I've visited some of the smaller schools near where I grew up, there will always be kids in the audience that say, "Hey, that was Spanish. I speak Spanish." And just or hey, they're having tamales and we have tamales at home. The joy that it sparks in them to see one of their lived experiences mirrored and shared in front of a group is beautiful and like just fills my heart.
Thank you for that answer.
That actually happened to me, and that was the moment. In that moment when there was this gasp in the room, and all the little kids were like, "She speaks Spanish, like me." So I know exactly what you're talking about. It's just like such a crazy experience to realize that it really does matter. It really does matter to kids.
Yeah, yes, it matters so much. Because I've hosted author visits at my school and I've been in author visiting schools, and we as authors for kids, we're like superstars, which we know we're not, but they think we are.
They think we are.
So when you say a word in their language or share an experience that they've had, they have this connection with someone that they hold on a pedestal. It's beautiful, magic.
It really is. Thank you for that answer.
Right. Yeah, the next question. Your upcoming book, Unbreakable, a Japanese American family in American incarceration camp, covers an important and difficult topic. What drew you to this story, and how did the collaboration with, I hope I say this right, Minoru Tonai come about?
Yeah, this is this book, I am so honored to be part of this story. And this is another one of those examples where information changed my life. So I grew up in northeastern Colorado, but my parents and all of my grandparents, aunts and uncles are from southeastern Colorado. And one summer I was spending time with family down there, and my maternal grandmother talked about the Japanese American camp. And I didn't know what she was talking about. And I was like 12 or 13 years old. I felt like in my mind, once I learned more, I thought, why wasn't this part of our history classes? Why am I just now learning about this? But basically, during World War II, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, over 120,000 Japanese and Japanese American people were placed in incarceration camps in different places. And the Mamiachi camp in Grenada, Colorado, in southeastern Colorado, was just down the road from where my grandparents lived. And the more I learned about this hidden history, the more I wanted to share it. It was so unjust. And so, as a teacher, for the past probably 20 plus years, I've been teaching that information to my students. And then I was shocked especially when I first started teaching those lessons, by other teachers who would be in the room and say, wow, I grew up in Colorado and I've never heard this history. And that was really horrifying to me. So I wanted to write a book about the history. And as I was doing research, one of my friends, Dan Yoshi, said, have you talked to Minoru Tonai? Because he co-founded, some different organizations to keep this history, to have different reunions and things like that. And I said, no, I haven't. And so Dan put me in touch with Min. Min is Minoru's nickname. And that was in 2017, and we started working together. First, I interviewed him because I thought maybe this would be part of a larger book with more information. And once I talked to him, I thought, wow, your story is so powerful. What if we wrote together and told your story? And he agreed. And we tried writing the story in a variety of ways. First as a picture book, and it just didn't have the heart that it needed. And then we tried as a middle grade nonfiction. We tried a graphic novel script, which that was a big learning curve for me. And Min was just kind of along for the ride on that one because that was a lot. And then during COVID, a lot happened during the pandemic for me, apparently. I was attending a virtual pilgrimage, and Min was speaking about, it was the Mamiachi pilgrimage online, and he was doing an interview, and he talked about his dad being released. His dad was arrested by the FBI the day that the Pearl Harbor bombing happened, before we had even declared war on Japan. And his dad was taken by the FBI, and his dad wasn't involved at all. His dad was a businessman. He sold produce. He had no involvement, but the FBI kept his father for 3 years and moved him from place to place. Numbers don't stick well in my head, but like 8 or 9 different prisons is what he was placed in over that time. And when Min's father arrived at Mamiachi, once he was finally released by the FBI, he was returned to his family who were still at Mamiachi. They had not been released. And he had a suitcase, and Min tried to help him lift the suitcase, and it was so heavy. And he said, Dad, what do you have in here? And his dad said, rocks. I collected rocks at every place, at every prison I was held at. And they made a garden outside of their barracks. And that, I just thought, it's these rocks. It's the Unbreakable, which is the title of our book. It's this resiliency and this strength, and taking something beautiful from each prison that you were held in and then making another beautiful thing in the form of a garden to just try to turn this horrible time into something a little better was everything. Like, to me, I was like, that's how we need to write this story. And so after I contacted Min and said, that was it. I don't know how I've never heard this story, because we had been talking for years. But that was our through line. And then the book was sold. Min passed away in September of 2023. But he knew his story was coming and he was so happy. His adult children have been working with me the entire time since. And Min had helped choose the illustrator, who's Chris Sasaki. And Chris is such an amazing, powerful illustrator. And I wish Min could be here to see it out in the world, but I'm so glad he knew it was going to be out in the world.
Wow, what an amazing story. And by the cover, it looks beautiful already. Did it end up being a picture book or a graphic novel?
So it is
what's
a
coming?
picture book. It's a picture book. It's a long picture book.
So you
It's like
went back to the
40.
original idea
We
of a picture
did.
book.
We did because I said there's the through line. That's because the graphic novel script, I think that was me. I just didn't know how to write a script. And Min would look at the manuscripts and say, looks good to me. And I would say, but it's just not right. But the picture book, then I thought, okay, now we have this through line of the rock for strength. And so yes, we went back to the picture book and we have some powerful back matter. It's a beautiful book.
Oh, how exciting. I cannot wait to read it.
Wonderful. Yes, yes.
And I'm going to change the topic a little bit because many of our listeners are educators and librarians. So I'd like to send something for them. So what advice would you have for those looking to build inclusive, representative collections, especially when it comes to bilingual and multicultural books?
I think so reviews are harder and harder to get, it feels like, and I know many of our librarian friends have to have a review or multiple reviews to be able to back up purchases. If you're not required to have a review from, places like Hornbook or junior library, sorry, school library journal or places like that, then skip over that piece because so many, I think I only got one review for one of my books. Like they get sent out, but reviewers are behind and it's hard to get reviews sometimes. So I would encourage you to really just try to find books that are written by people with those lived experiences and or illustrated by people with those lived experiences. And look for multiple stories from multiple viewpoints. I think those are all really important things to do. And then I look, there are a lot of bookstagrammers and websites and publishers where you can find information too. So the Latinx KidLit Book Festival and Las Musas. Miranda Quintero is the bilingual bibliotecaria on Instagram, and she's on Facebook as well. I love her posts. And Delia Ruiz is also a reviewer and an author. Aventuras en ESL on Instagram. So I look for people who immerse themselves in that world. If I can't find trade reviews, I try to find people who are really up on those topics.
All right. That's great. That's wonderful. I know about reviews. They're very hard to come by. Very hard to come by. Okay. Did you present at NCTE or you're going to be presenting at NCTE? Bring us up to date on that.
Okay, so NCTE November 2025 is when the presentations are.
Okay.
And I was on 3 panels, and we're exploring different things. We explored different things like poetry and nonfiction books, and I was able to really feature my book Mamiachi and Me with teachers there, and also celebrate Unbreakable that is coming. And I was able to do book signings for Ofrenda and Mamiachi because Chronicle is my publisher for Ofrenda and Abrams is my publisher for Mamiachi, as well as Unbreakable and my earlier book, Too Much: An Overwhelming Day. So both of those publishers generously allowed me to do signings. Yeah, so it was such an amazing conference and celebration of books and literature.
Wonderful. That's so good to hear. Okay, I'm going to let Alicia have the last question.
Yes. Okay. Where can our listeners follow your work, find your books, and support your upcoming project?
Oh, thank you. So my website, which you guys already showed, is jolenegutierrez.com. And as far as finding my books, they are kind of wherever books are sold. I know Amazon is the easy answer. I don't prefer Amazon, but I understand if people want to or need to order from there. I would encourage people to check with their local independent bookstore if they have one in town and ask them to order in copies. Or bookshop.org is a great way online to order. They often do discounts and they support independent bookstores. So bookshop.org is kind of my first choice online. If people aren't able to purchase, I get that books are expensive and there are so many of them out there that we want to get our hands on. So ask your public library if they could purchase a copy or interlibrary loan a copy, because that's the easiest way. And then reviews. Reviewing authors' work or sharing it with others is one of the best ways to give back.
I'm
Absolutely.
so glad you mentioned that because sometimes people are wanting to still support the creators and they don't know how. So just simply by asking the libraries, requesting the books through the libraries is a great gesture and doesn't cost anything. It's free. So, well, and this wraps up our official interview. Thank you so much, Jolene. But we're not done yet. Now we have what we call the rapid fire questions. So these are 3 questions we ask of every guest, and you just tell us what comes to mind. Okay, the very first one. What is one fact about you that even your biggest fans might not know?
I don't have a middle name. I always wanted one, but I don't have one.
Nice. Well, and that's not very common.
I
So very
know.
good.
People always think I'm lying. They think I hate my middle name and I just don't want to tell them. And I'm like, no, my parents hated their middle names
Yeah.
and they decided to not burden my sister and I with middle names, but I kind of wish I had one.
Well, and especially in Latinx families, we normally have 2, 3, sometimes even 4 names before our last names. So congratulations.
I don't
Well,
have a
you know,
middle
the
name
beauty of it, you can make up your middle name. Sorry, Alicia, go for it.
either. I don't have a middle name either.
Oh, you
Ooh,
don't?
No,
I love
okay.
that.
Wow.
Oh, so 2 in the same place. Wow.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing, Alicia. I only know 2 other people, so that makes 4 now. I know 4 people who don't have a middle name. So the group is growing. Maybe maybe you could
We
form
should
a Facebook
get
group
together.
of people without middle names.
We should.
And I have the second rapid fire question. If others were to describe you in 1, 2, or 3 words, what would those words be?
Oh, I think they would probably say I'm compassionate. You saw how easily I get moved to tears. Compassionate and curious, I think.
Those are 2 very good qualities to have.
Thank you.
And the last rapid fire question, what book or books have had the most impact on your life?
Mm. Um, 2. One that I remember reading with my mom when I was little, and I thought I could read, but I had just memorized the stories because she read them so frequently. And that was The Little Red Hen. And I decided at that point in my life, I will never be the little red hen doing all the work. Like I need other people to help me help out. Not, I didn't want to be like the little red hen. And then the other book that was really special to me when I was little, well, when I was in second grade, it was the first book I connected to as a reader, and it was a book called A Horse Called Dragon. It was a chapter book written by Lynn Hall, told from the viewpoint of a wild Mustang, and all of the sensory details and the things the horse smelled and experienced and felt really it just put me in that story, and that unlocked that love of reading for me. So those 2 books are special to me.
Very fun. I love the story of the little red hen. Good lessons. Good lessons from that one. But
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you so much for being here today and everything that you've shared. I mean, we learned so much from every one of our guests, and I hope our audience is learning a lot as well. So this brings us to the end of our show today. Any last remarks from anyone?
No, I just want to thank Jolene for being here today, taking the time out to be with us and giving us these wonderful answers that we can all learn from. So she has very diverse books, and I think that's wonderful. This is great. Her answers were fabulous. Thank
And
you,
your
Jolene.
books are beautiful, Jolene. I cannot wait to see your new one. So
Yes.
congratulations.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you also for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alicia, Silvia, and Claudia. I am so grateful for your time, for your thoughtful questions, and for all of your support of all creators around bilingual books.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. In the next episode, Heidi Sayas.